More officers in London may have to be armed after last night's shooting of 2 policemen in Brixton.
I'm not going to prison. That was it. I'm making good my escape.
And I remember sitting there, lying there thinking, I'm not going to die here. I'm not dying here.
My name's Leroy Smith, and I'm here today to do an interview with the BBC about an incident that happened over 20 years ago.
I'm James Seymour. I'm a retired police officer. I'm now a member of police staff training police drivers.
Growing up, it was okay, I suppose. I grew up with my grandma. My mum got murdered when I was 2, so I grew with my gran, and I was in an estate in South London, and I left school from about 13, started doing burglaries, robberies, and went to prison, got 4 months, came back out, same thing, went again, and this cycle just continued.
I grew up in Kent. I came from a very religious background, where literally the 10 Commandments were taken as they were. Had no telly, no radio. By the time I got to late teens, I decided I wanted to move out and do something. So it was either the armed forces or the police.
And what was the relationship like with the police?
It's always been hostile. In the 90s, Brixton was and still is a dangerous place. It's a place where everything happened. Drug dealing, shooting, stabbings. The whole community is violent and society is violent in general, but I was just, at the time, more violent than everybody else because I realised that that's the way that you get things done.
There's a lot of deep feelings, especially at Brixton, from the 1981 riots that were still running very deep. Sometimes there's been incidents between the black community and the police. You could literally feel the tension that any slightest thing, and this could go quite nasty.
What happened that day? Nothing unusual was going on. I was in a flat somewhere in Croydon with a few girls.
Just drove to work, just another late shift.
One of my youngers, I sent him to go to the pub in Brixton and collect some money from somebody. And he went there, he didn't collect the money, and he gave him more drugs. And I phoned my other friend, he came and picked me up, and I jumped on the bike and went to Brixton.
I know that myself and my colleague wanted to look for some overtime, and the easiest way to do that would be a simple drugs arrest.
Went to Brixton, got to the pub, saw the person I had to see, and on the way out, I'm thinking, let's just hurry up and go. And then they came.
We did a textbook stop, back to back, separated them.
And I said, I ain't got nothing to hide, or something along them lines. And my co-defendant started doing the same thing, but what he was doing was emptying his pockets, literally showing them he's got nothing to hide, and I had things to hide.
As I went to chat to the rider, he dropped something on the floor that I thought was crack cocaine. So I went to push him against the wall so I could take hold of the evidence. And at the corner of my eye, I saw my colleague struggling on the floor with the pillion passenger.
He just went crazy, and the whole thing was like a split-second thing. It's like, it wasn't like I planned it. It just happened. We're all close to each other, and I've got this in my waist, and I don't want to go to prison. I've escaped from prison, so I'm looking at 20 years.
He pulled a handgun from his waistband, hit my colleague in the leg, He fell back screaming, and it's one of those things where everything's in slow motion. This isn't really happening. This is just a nightmare. I'm going to wake up in a minute. You know, the alarm's going to go off. But it is reality, and it was just a surge of adrenaline.
When you live like that, you're not thinking about other people, you think about yourself. It's a self-centered world that you're living in.
The gunman then fired a third shot, which hit me about a centimetre from the spine, went across the top of the kidney, and then ripped out the side of the flesh out the side of my body. I put my hand into the wound and felt I was bleeding. So I thought, I've got to stop the bleeding. And your training just kicks in. And I remember sitting there, lying there thinking, I'm not going to die here. I'm not dying here.
The two officers, PC Simon Carroll and PC James Seymour, are in hospital.
They stopped to question two men who were on a motorbike, and both officers were fired at by the pillion passenger.
I knew Simon was quite bad for the way he screamed, so I tried to get to him. But the pain was too bad that I just couldn't move.
And in the moments afterwards, as you're escaping on the bike, were you panicking about what you'd done? Were you thinking you'd made a mistake?
No, I was thinking I have to escape. That's when I had time to reflect. And then I thought, wow, look at this. Now my whole situation's gone times 10 up. Now you got Interpol, all sorts of people looking for you. And you're still a gunman. It's not nice.
Do you remember having any feelings about James as you saw him in court?
None at all. Nothing nice. Because, as I said, I was a different person then. Back then, you wouldn't even want to be in my company, because I would scare you.
In other news, a drug dealer who shot and injured two policemen in Brixton was sent to prison for 25 years today. The judge told Leroy Smith dreadful crimes must attract dreadful sentences.
That is a long time. And I just thought to myself, I'm never getting out. That's what I thought. I thought, I'm never getting out. So people would think that you just do this and you just do that and that's the end of it. They're tripping, because it's not going to work like that. And once you go in there, the clock stops. After 3 years, everybody's going to forget about you. People, what you say is your right hand and your dog and your this and your that, gang, all this. It's curtains. You're going to be on your own. You're not even going to get a post order. And if you do come out in 30 years' time, the whole world's going to have left you behind.
So what made you change your life? Like, was it the time in jail, or was it because of all your sins?
Brother, I'm not even gonna lie. It's a combination of everything. When you start looking into life more deeper and thinking, what could you do for some kind of redemption? Do you understand? And then that's how comes the book came about. And it took me a year to write. That's not easy when you're broke.
Yeah, of course not.
One of the police officers read this book also.
I read it. Some of it I didn't agree with. Some of it I found really interesting. And I thought, if he actually wants to make a difference to people's lives, I will support him and let him know that I agree with what you're doing, and I hope you have changed, because I always wanted that. As soon as he got sentenced, I wanted him to change.
What did you think when James first got in touch with you? What was going through your mind?
I was a bit scared, to be honest. I'm still cautious, because I'm thinking like, are you sure? Do you understand? I was like, wow. This just feels weird.
You haven't come back at all then?
Nah, I always try to avoid Brixton if I can.
Have you?
To be honest.
I've been back a couple of times, but it seems a bit strange being here with you.
Yeah, man. This place, when I think about it, it's just making me feel like nauseous, like I want to pass out, you know. This is an emotional place.
What does it feel like to be back here for the first time, Leroy?
I didn't realise I would feel so heavy on my heart. That's the truth. Now that I'm here, I'm kind of lost for words for that's not normally like me.
What about you, James? You've been back here on your own, but not with Leroy.
I'm pleased Leroy's doing it with me. You know, this is a moment, another moment in my life I won't ever forget.
Simon, I think, got shot first, and then James, and then fired a shot in the air.
I noticed that when you were talking about the shooting, you talk about it almost in the third person, and you never look at James.
Because I feel bad. If it was me, I wouldn't forgive someone. So if it was a situation now where something was happening, I would put my life in harm's way for him if I had to, without hesitation, because of everything what's happened. That's the truth.
It's a powerful thing.
It's very powerful. What we're doing is powerful. And, you know, Leroy said if it was the other way around, he probably wouldn't forgive me. And there's a lot of people will not understand why I'm doing this. I accept some of my colleagues are not going to support what I'm doing because, I don't know, they might be old school and think, well, he shot 2 police officers, they should throw the key away. But for me, that's just very narrow-minded.
What would you say to young people now who are on the fringes of getting involved with the things you were, or who are already going down that path?
All right, the system is not stacked for you, the guy on the road. It's not stacked for you, but you're just helping the situation times 10, killing each other. So none of it makes any sense. Do you understand? It's more than stupid, and the man them need to stop that, because that ain't gonna help nothing.
Just forgiving Leroy has been amazing. It's made him feel good, it's made me feel good. You know, when I was suffering PTSD, it wasn't just because of the shooting, it was due to a number of horrific incidents that I'd dealt with. But now, without doubt, it's one of the best things I've done in my life.
The man forgave me. I shot the man, point blank, a policeman. I don't know him from nowhere. Our paths have collided. I'm a gunman, I'm a bad man, he's a lawman. And now I can class him as a friend.